Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are attempting a deep dive into, well, an absolute ocean of literature. A book so influential it basically redefined storytelling itself. Miguel de Cervantes' Don Quixote.
Published in two parts, 1605 and then 1615. And, it's often called the first modern novel.
Right, and that designation, first modern novel, that's a big deal.
It is, because it tells you exactly what Cervantes actually achieved. He didn't just write an epic story. He wrote a book that, for the first time, really understood the conflict between our internal desires and the external world.
A mix of satire, adventure.
And really profound social commentary.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to go way beyond, the guy who fights a windmill.
Yeah, everyone knows that part.
We want to get to the core tension that makes this story just immortal. That brutal, often hilarious collision between boundless idealism and, well, unforgiving reality.
And to ask why a story about a completely delusional man still resonates so deeply 400 years later.
Because it really does.
I think it's because it captures the essence of human aspiration, No matter how foolish that aspiration might look from the outside.
Okay, so let's set this up. Our hero starts out as Alonso Quixano, a simple, middle-aged gentleman living in La Mancha.
And he is utterly obsessed with chivalric romances.
Right, those dusty old medieval tales of glorious knights and
impossible noble deeds, yeah. He reads so much, the book tells us, that he literally loses his grip on reality.
He just snaps.
He hits a psychological breaking point, and instead of accepting his quiet, ordinary life, he just chooses to break from it completely. He reinvents his identity.
So Alonso Quixano is gone.
Gone. And in his place stands the self-styled knight-errant Don Quixote de la Mancha.
Yeah, and his preparations are just. They're hilarious,
Yeah.
but also kind of moving.
In their commitment, yeah.
Everything has to be elevated.
Yeah.
He takes his old skinny farm horse and he christens it Rocinante, a name that's supposed to sound, what, noble?
Noble and grand, exactly. And of course, a knight needs a lady love, someone to dedicate his deeds to.
But he doesn't go find a princess.
No, he picks a local peasant girl, Aldonza Lorenzo, and purely in his imagination, he transforms her into the noble, the beautiful Dulcinea del Toboso.
And his purpose is crystal clear right from the start of part one.
To ride out and resurrect the lost glory of knight-errantry, to fight for justice and honor in a world that's mostly forgotten about them.
Or maybe never really cared in the first place.
And this is where the genius of Cervantes just immediately kicks in. We jump straight into the iconic delusions of part one, where that fundamental conflict is established.
Don Quixote's reality versus, well, actual reality.
With maximum absurdity and a lot of physical consequences.
The world he lives in is practical, it's changing, but the world in his head is full of
high fantasy, justice, honor, and of course, giants.
Which brings us to the scene everyone knows.
The windmills. It's the ultimate symbol, isn't it? He rides upon this field of giant windmills, these new structures of industry, and he doesn't see grain grinders.
No, he sees giant monsters.
Monsters he has to slay. It's his duty.
So he charges, and naturally gets completely knocked off his horse. He's bruised, humiliated.
But, and this is the key to the whole book, he doesn't change his mind. He doesn't say, oh, oops, that was a windmill.
No, he doubles down.
Completely. He insists a wicked sorcerer, his arch-nemesis, transformed the giants into windmills at the very last second.
Just to deny him the glory.
Exactly. The imagination doesn't just misinterpret reality, it actively rejects any evidence that contradicts the ideal.
And that refusal to see the truth just leads to one absurd encounter after another.
It's a chain reaction. You see it when he mistakes a simple roadside inn for a magnificent castle.
And the poor innkeeper.
The innkeeper just wants to run his business, but he's forced to play the part of a noble governor who has to officially knight Don Quixote.
The world around him has to bend to his dream. And it's not always harmless fun, is it? He attacks a flock of sheep.
Because he thinks they're two massive warring armies.
Yes, again, results in him getting an absolute beating.
But my favorite of these, and I think the one that's most symbolic, is the quest for the helmet of Mambrino.
This is where a totally mundane object gets forced into his fantasy.
Right. He sees a barber who's just wearing his brass shaving basin on his head to keep out of the rain.
And Don Quixote sees
the legendary magical helmet of Mambrino, and he takes it by force. The illusion becomes his belief.
But Cervantes is careful to show us that this absurdity can turn into real-world tragedy.
He is. And the most sobering moment in part one is his encounter with the chain gang.
This is where his noble intentions really backfire. He sees these prisoners being transported.
And Don Quixote, he sees injustice everywhere. He believes all prisoners deserve liberation, a noble ideal.
A pure ideal of freedom.
So he frees them, and he expects them to be grateful.
And instead,
They rob him and pelt him with stones.
it's a hard lesson. It shows that his idea of justice, it can't survive contact with the real world.
Noble intentions without any practical understanding are often just disastrous.
So before this delusion gets completely out of control, his friends have to step in.
Yeah, the local priest and the barber, they track him down and they trick him into coming home.
They tell him he's under an enchantment and has to be put in a cage.
And the beautiful irony is that even in the cage, bruised and defeated, Don Quixote still believes he's on the path to glory.
Which brings us to the real heart of the novel, doesn't it? The partnership that defines everything.
Sancho Panza.
His squire, Sancho Panza.
Sancho is absolutely indispensable. He is the anchor to reality for Don Quixote and for us, the readers.
He's just a poor practical farmer who agrees to go along for a pretty straightforward reason.
Right. Not for chivalric honor. He joins because Don Quixote promises to make him the governor of an island.
So their dynamic is this constant dialogue between the knight's high-flown idealism and the squire's.
Yeah.
Immediate, earthy practicality.
Exactly. Don Quixote has this high moral intelligence, but basically zero practical intelligence.
And Sancho is the complete opposite. He's worried about food, money, a place to sleep.
Avoiding pain. And he's always spouting these common sense proverbs, but their relationship, it evolves. It becomes more than just a transaction.
Does it, though? I mean, is Sancho truly loyal, or is he just sticking around for that island? Cervantes hints that his practicality wins out for a long time.
That's the beautiful ambiguity of it. He starts out as a mercenary, for sure. He's in it for the reward. But over time, Don Quixote's pure idealism, it starts to rub off on him.
He starts to sound a bit like him.
He does. And more importantly, he realizes his master's heart is good. Don Quixote lifts Sancho up toward dreams, and Sancho keeps Don Quixote's feet on the ground.
They become real friends.
Through shared absurdity, yeah.
Which raises that fundamental question.
Yeah.
Why the madness? I mean, Cervantes makes it clear it's not just a gimmick.
No, it's born from deep loneliness, from intellectual frustration and a desire for purpose. It's a profound rebellion against a life he found unbearably ordinary.
He just refuses to be bored.
He refuses the mundane. And in a world that demands you conform, his insanity becomes this radical form of personal freedom.
And that gets us to Cervantes' big satirical purpose, right? He wasn't just telling a funny story.
Not at all. He was attacking the mass media of his time, those wildly popular, unrealistic medieval romances.
He was basically criticizing the blind consumption of fantasy.
Exactly. Don Quixote gets so lost in these stories that he can't tell the difference between the book world and the real world. And that's a timeless critique. We see people today getting lost in curated social media feeds or video games or political echo chambers, things that can detach you from physical reality.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
Yet even as he's making his hero look completely ridiculous, Cervantes treats him with so much dignity.
Always. You never truly hate the knight.
Because his intentions are pure.
They are. He genuinely wants to help the helpless and fight for justice. And Cervantes suggests that a person with that kind of pure intention, even if they're completely misguided, they have a dignity that the people laughing at them just lack.
That sets up part 2 perfectly, which comes out a full decade later.
And this is where the book gets really innovative. Part 1 has been published and is a success.
So the story becomes self-aware.
That's the metafiction that makes it so modern. In Part 2, Don Quixote and Sancho are famous. They meet people who have read the book about them.
The line between fiction and reality just completely blurs.
It does, and the tone shifts. Part 2 is more philosophical, more reflective, and honestly, it's more tragic.
The adventures feel less spontaneous.
More often, they're engineered by people who know his story and want to manipulate him for fun.
We see that right away with the false Dulcinea incident.
Right. Sancho can't produce this noble lady, so he just points to 3 random, pretty rude peasant women and says they're Dulcinea, but they've been transformed by an evil enchantment.
And Don Quixote believes him. He accepts that his perfect ideal has been grotesquely twisted. It feels like a loss of innocence.
It is. His glorious dream is now tinged with cynicism. Yeah. And his fame also exposes him to just intentional cruelty.
From the Duke and Duchess.
This wealthy couple who are just thrilled that the famous knight is visiting them, but it's all for their own entertainment.
They invite him just to mock him. They stage fake battles, they make cruel jokes, they weaponize his idealism.
They do. In one prank, they have a servant pretend to be a countess with a long, fake beard who says only Don Quixote can break her curse.
By riding a wooden horse, blindfolded.
Yeah, and they set off fireworks and make loud noises just to humiliate him in front of their court.
It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
The comedy in part was mostly accidental. In part two, the cruelty is deliberate. The quote-unquote sane world is shown to be far more malicious than the Mad Knight.
Exactly. Society uses the dreamer for sport.
Right.
But in the middle of all this cruelty, Sancho Panza gets his moment.
The governorship.
The Duke and Duchess make him the governor of a fake village, Barataria, which he thinks is his island.
Now, this is Sancho's great triumph. He's an uneducated farmer, but he rules with incredible common sense and fairness.
He shows real wisdom, but it's still just a prank, and when he realizes he's a pawn in their game, he resigns.
He declares that his freedom as a simple squire is worth more than all that power.
Which is beautiful. It reinforces the idea that true leadership comes from humility, not from titles.
So Sancho is ready to keep going, but Don Quixote's journey is nearing its end.
It is. And the final defeat comes on a beach in Barcelona.
He's challenged to a duel by the Knight of the White Moon.
Who isn't a real enemy. It's actually his friend, Samson Carrasco, in disguise, making one last desperate attempt to save him.
And Don Quixote loses.
He loses. And the penalty is just devastatingly simple and practical.
He has to go home and give up being a knight for 1 full year.
The dream is forcibly retired.
He goes home heartbroken. And what follows is the ultimate tragic irony of the novel.
Lying on his deathbed, Don Quixote recovers his sanity.
He realizes he was never a knight.
He renounces all those chivalric romances that consumed him, and he dies peacefully as his true self. Alonso Quixano the Good.
Reality finally wins. The tragedy is that the world prefers Alonso the sane man, but we, the readers, we love Don Quixote the dreamer.
And that final image. It's Sancho Panza, the man who started out so practical, now totally transformed, crying, begging his master to get up, to be mad again, to go on one more adventure.
He's the one pleading for the fantasy to continue.
It shows how profoundly that idealism changed his life, for the better.
So what does this centuries-old deep dive mean for us? It's a story about identity, about how we can create who we are.
Yeah, the choice to go from Alonso to Don Quixote.
And it's a masterclass on that painful balance between accepting reality and having the courage to chase your dreams.
It's still so vital because it encourages courage in a world that so often laughs at idealists. It's a deep look at sanity, madness, and purpose.
But let's leave you with this final thought to mull over. If Don Quixote's madness was his rebellion against a boring life, if his fantasy was his form of freedom, consider the modern-day crazy ones, the entrepreneurs, the innovators, the visionaries who fight for a purpose against all common sense. The people who look foolish to the rest of society, are they? Are they just the inheritors of the spirit of Don Quixote? And what exactly is the cost of absolute sanity?
Something to ponder until our next deep dive.